Hello, I'm Neil Gresswell and I work for the Forestry Mission's Health and Safety Department. I'm travelling today to meet Gareth Hopkins of our training department, Learning and Development. We're going to discuss the contents of a seminar to support OGB 38 hand-arm vibration syndrome management.
Morning, Gareth.
Good morning, Neil. How's it going, mate? Good journey?
Right. Yeah.
No, spot on.
You all set up?
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't mind just having a quick run through before we start, if that's okay.
Good idea.
Nice one.
Right, Gareth. OGB 38. We're just looking at the hand-arm vibration stuff. Where we're going to start this seminar, do you think?
I thought we need to set the ground rules and tell people what HAVS is, really.
Right. Start with an explanation of HAVS.
Yep, that'll be good. Hand-arm vibration syndrome is an injury to the blood vessels caused by vibrating machinery. It damages the blood vessels and stops blood flowing to the extremities, which can be extremely painful. And once the damage is done, it is irreversible.
Right, Gareth. Good explanation, I think, of HAVS and what it is. Where next?
Thought we'd introduce OGB 38 and the management system that's contained within it now.
Good.
Go through all of the system, make sure people know what's detailed in OGB 38.
Where you're going to start in OGB 38? It's quite a big publication.
We'll start with the two pieces of information we need to actually put into our management system that will actually give us our vibration levels.
Which one first?
The vibration magnitude of the machine that we're actually working with.
Main points?
Main points, they'll have to get the information from the manufacturer, whether they get that from the handbook or getting into the manufacturer or websites. Making sure that if there's a 2 or 3 magnitude levels in there, they take the highest one, because sometimes there's 2 or 3 handles on a piece of equipment. And also reinforce that the manufacturers have actually produced these figures for us, but they were for brand new machines in sort of workshop styles, straight out from the box, basically. To work out the magnitude level of a piece of machinery, first you must find the owner's manual. If you do not have a paper copy of the owner's manual, most owner's manuals these days can be downloaded from the internet. In this example, we have an owner's manual for a Husqvarna 357 chainsaw. Once you have your owner's manual, you can navigate your way to the technical data section. Once you have navigated the technical data section of the manual, you need to find a section containing the vibration levels. In this manual, we find these figures under the vibration levels section of the technical data, and we can also tell that these are the right figures, as the vibration magnitude figure is quoted in meters per second squared. In this example, as with all multi-handle vibration tools, the manufacturers will quote vibration levels for each handle. To enter into the calculator, we will always take the highest figure, thus erring on the side of safety. So for this example, we would use a magnitude level of 4.2 meters per second squared to enter into the HAVS calculator.
First variable covered then, Gareth. Next one, operator exposure duration.
Yeah, I mean they call it exposure duration in the OGB, but most of the people know it as trigger time. And basically, trigger time is the amount of time an operator is holding onto the machine by the handle or the vibrating surface.
Right, we've looked at the manufacturer's vibration levels.
Yep.
We've looked at the length of time that people might be in contact with vibration.
Yep.
Last two things then, the calculator for controlling it.
Yep.
And the 2 definitions that are in the law on vibration.
Yeah, I think we need to do the definitions next, don't we? And we've got everything, all the background done, then we can just go into actually how we practically manage things. Exposure action value is a limit of daily exposure to vibration above which you must take action to reduce exposure. The vibration level is measured in meters per second squared and is an acceleration value that is averaged over an 8-hour working day.
Exposure limit value is the level of daily exposure to vibration above which you must not expose employees on any single day. The vibration level is measured in meters per second squared. This is an acceleration value that is averaged over an 8-hour working day.
We've covered all the background information, Gareth.
Yep.
Where they get stuff from. The coloured stickers we put on equipment to advise operators then. That next?
Yeah, and what we can do is we can put the information into the HSE vibration calculator, and we can show people what that means and what sticker goes on which store.
Once you have found the magnitude level of your piece of equipment from the manufacturer's guidance, you need to open the HSE's hand-arm vibration exposure calculator. This can be either found on the HSE's website or following a link from the OGB 38 pages on the Forestry Commission's intranet site. To work out the sticker colour for each piece of machinery, first you must find the magnitude level from the manufacturer's guidance. Once you have this figure, you would enter it into the vibration magnitude box on the spreadsheet. For example, a Bosch drill driver has a magnitude level of less than 2.5 meters per second squared. For this example, we will assume a magnitude level of 2.4 meters per second squared. We can see in this example that this machine will expose operators to 12 points per hour. You would need to be using the piece of equipment for 8 hours 41 minutes before you would exceed the exposure action value, and you would need to be using the piece of machinery for more than 24 hours before you exceeded the exposure limit value. Assuming an 8-hour working day, if I put in 8 into the exposure duration box, we find that this piece of equipment will expose our operators to 92 points in an 8-hour working day. Therefore, this tool would be marked with a green sticker as the exposure points are below 100. In our next example, we will use the figures for a Husqvarna 357 XPG chainsaw. Looking in the manufacturer's guidance, we find that this machine has a magnitude level of 4.22 meters per second squared. In this example, we can see this will expose our operators to 36 points per hour, and our operators will exceed the exposure action value after 2 hours 48 minutes of use, and the exposure limit value will be exceeded after 11 hours 14 minutes of use. Adding in a typical 8-hour working day into the exposure duration column, we will find that this machine will expose our operators to 285 points per day. Therefore, this machine will be marked with a yellow sticker as the exposure points per day are over 100. For our next example, we will use the figures for a WP 1550 vibro plate. The manufacturer states a magnitude level of 10.8 meters per second squared. As you can see, entering this figure into the calculator, the tool can exceed the exposure action value after 26 minutes of use. If we use the tool for more than 1 hour 43 minutes, we also exceed the exposure limit value. If we put in a typical working day of 8 hours, we can see partial exposure points of 1,868. This tool would be marked with a red sticker as this figure here exceeds 400.
Been a busy day, a lot of information for people, but the last bit is managing exactly how much vibration we expose our people to, particularly when they use different tools in one day.
Yeah, so what we could do then is we could go back to projector, look at the calculator again, and actually put in some real figures for a typical working day for a member of staff.
We also have to be aware of using tools on site with different magnitude levels, i.e. different sticker colours. If we use the figures from the previous example and wanted to use the vibro plate and the chainsaw on the same site, we may not be able to use both the machines on site all day. If we enter the figures for the vibro plate at 10.8 metres per second squared, and we had some work to do with that piece of machinery that would take us 1.5 hours of trigger time, you can see that we would expose our operator to 350 partial exposure points. If we also had some chainsaw work to do on that site, that chainsaw operator could carry out some of that work, but their time would be limited. So if we enter the figures for the chainsaw at 4.22 metres per second squared, and we add a further 1.5 hours of work for that operator to do, so 1.5 hours of trigger time, we can see that our total exposure points for the day would be 404. This is above 400, so we would have to monitor the time that our operator was using one of these pieces of machinery. In this example, we would have to reduce the time that our operator used one of these pieces of machinery to get our total exposure points below 400. In this example, we can reduce the time that the operator uses the chainsaw to 1 hour 20 minutes. We can now see our total exposure points are now below 400 at 398. This operator could use these machines on site for these periods of time, but would no longer be able to use any other vibrating tools on that site during that working day.
Thanks very much, Gareth. That's a good day's work. Wish you luck with the seminars.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, mate.
Key points for operators: monitor usage on red tools, keep tools well maintained, take regular breaks, wear dry gloves, choose low vibration tools. Key points for supervisors: monitor tool usage, ensure health monitoring takes place, reduce vibration as far as reasonably practicable. EAV, the exposure action value. Up to the EAV, the tool will be identified by a green sticker. If the tool exceeds this, it will be identified by a yellow sticker. This is still within the daily limits, but we should try to reduce exposure where possible, and the employee has to be on the health surveillance system. ELV, the exposure limit value. If a tool has a red sticker, it has the potential to exceed the ELV, which could cause considerable damage to the operator, and usage must be monitored to ensure that the limit is not exceeded. If possible, red tools should be replaced.